I welcome everyone to my channel. And again, stories from life. A novel that will change your life. Martha Shields' right pointing arrow, hope for happiness. You don't like the job title? Great. Let's call you financial inspector. No, it's Jim's job. Well, let it be the head of the department. For me, the names do not play a role, these are just words. Alan had no position at all, neither did I need someone I can trust with money management. For me, the main thing is that there are no failures in the financial department. She thought for a minute. This can be achieved. I knew that you would succeed. Claire looked into his eyes. The head of the department is fine. If you are sure, I'll have to contact Whitaker and Associates. Monday morning. She shook her head. I need to leave a letter of resignation. I need you. Now. Jake slowly pulled her towards him. The smile faded from Claire's face. She moved back to the railing. So soon? Now we come to my second proposal. He rested his hands on the railing so that Claire had nowhere to retreat. She could only fearfully follow his every movement. He hugged her, and from this a slight shiver of pleasure ran through his entire body. But before discussing it, I need to find out one more thing. He leaned down to her lips. The kiss was gentle and light at first, as if he was coaxing Claire into trusting her. She grabbed his shoulders as if she was afraid to fall. It spurred Jake on, as did the delicate floral scent of her perfume and the softness of the velvet fabric under his palms. The kiss deepened. With a slight moan, she wrapped her arms around his neck, leaving his hands free to act. And, good God, could he resist? With one hand, he caressed her back, and with the other he dug into her hair, not to let himself succumb to temptation and want more. No need to scare her now. But the longer the kiss lasted, the more difficult it was for him to resist the violent desire. Claire, he whispered, never leaving her lips. I had no idea what it could be like. Her voice is barely audible. For what? All the sweetest candies in the world. And his tongue again began to explore the depths of her mouth. Until Jake finally pulled away from her with a groan. He buried his face in her hair. He did not expect such a violent reaction to her closeness. She stood, breathing heavily. Then, suddenly, she snapped out of his arms. Damn it, Jake Anderson. Claire turned angrily and walked into the room. He caught her by the hand at the very door of the terrace. What's happened? She rolled her eyes at him angrily. I made it clear that I wouldn't sleep with you for work. And that's why you responded to the kiss like that. He pulled her into his arms again and smiled, remembering how her lips parted back at him. You know, I have a feeling that at that moment no one was thinking about any work. With a soft moan, she hid her head against his chest. Look into my eyes, Claire. No. So you won't get rid of me anyway, you yourself understand. She sighed. I've made a decision. Finally she raised her head. What solution? You already gave me this job. Are you giving up just because I ask you to be my wife? Chapter 4. Claire looked at Jake in disbelief. Her brain was simply unable to comprehend what he said. Then she suddenly burst out laughing. I understood. She walked over to the railing and spread her arms wide. It's all just a dream. Rave, and the elevator, and the meeting with you, and the job offer, and the kiss. He gently took her hand and pinched her lightly. Oh, she jerked her hand away. Why do you? To prove that this is not a dream and not delirium. Claire paled. Everything is quite real. She took a step back, then rubbed her elbow with cold fingers. Then I must have misunderstood something. It all depends on what exactly you understand. I think. Claire frowned. I think you asked me to marry you. Jake nodded calmly. Exactly. No, you couldn't. She was completely embarrassed. For what? You need a child, and I need an heir. That's why we get married. But I can't marry you. Why not? Why? She repeated. There are a million reasons for that. Name at least 3. Let's start with the fact that we just met yesterday. You have only known me for 24 hours. And what? I might actually be crazy or a murderer. How do you know? He chuckled. You, Claire Angela Eden, were born on May 8th at your family ranch, Eden's Garden, in Wyoming. You have two older brothers, Hank and Travis. Hank keeps a small herd on the ranch, but his main income comes from betting on rodeos. Travis is ranked 3rd in the World Rodeo Association rankings and is now preparing for his 8th championship. Hank is married. Travis is not. Hank has 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. Should I continue? That's true, but that doesn't mean you know me. Jake took her hand and led her into the room. Let's go. I want to show you something. There was a massive oak table in the middle of the office. Jake took a thick folder out of the drawer. Flipping through the papers, he read aloud the complete list of her school teachers. When he moved on to the story of how Claire and her girlfriend Mallory tried to quietly smoke a cigar that Mallory stole from her father, Claire broke down and tried to snatch the folder from Jake. He pulled away. No one even knew about it. Who told you? Damn it, you have my whole life in your hands. He looked up innocently. The Claire Eden case is number 101. Very funny. Have you hired a private detective? Jake slammed the folder shut and dropped it on the table. By the way, not one, but several. This morning. What? For what? You have studied me, and well, I had to do the same. I didn't study you. I just read an article about Alan in the Denver magazine. You have no idea what I am. How can you be sure that you can endure life with me for a long time? Who knows? Many years? And I don't know anything about you at all, except that you are an unscrupulous and impudent type. Great. We will spend the next 24 hours together, trying to get to know each other better. If we endure each other until Sunday, we will fly to Las Vegas and get married there. Do you agree? No, no way. Besides, I have to start work on Monday. You just accepted me, remember? It's not important now. Claire looked at him in confusion. Is she Jake Anderson's wife? Yes. She still could not believe that she was talking to him so easily. Then she remembered one of his phrases. What did you mean when you said you needed an heir? Jake ran a hand through his hair and sat down in a wide leather chair. For a minute he looked intently into Claire's face. Then he looked up at the ceiling. When he spoke again, his voice sounded hollow and strained, as if he was struggling to get the words out. I can't let the same thing happen to me as to Alan. I want to have children. I want to have a wife. I want someone to leave everything I have. I want to have a wife. I want someone to leave everything I have. Otherwise, what's the point of living? Claire didn't know what to say. She slowly sank into a chair. But there are so many women around you. Jake shook his head wearily. The women I know belong to the circle of very rich people. And I do not want my children to grow up with their views on the world. You and I are from the same test. We both grew up on the rancho. And together we can teach our children to value life first of all, not money. I want my wife to take care of the kids. Comfort them when they get hurt. Bake buns for them, not pat them on the head before flying to Barbados for the weekend. Claire crossed her legs and tried to cover her knees with her skirt. What about my job? I never imagined myself as a housewife. I didn't say I was going to turn you into a housewife. On the contrary, I very much count on your help. That is why I offered you the position of head of the department. I must be dreaming of all this. To pinch you again? Jake suggested. Very funny. Claire stood up and went to the window. Is everything really happening to her? Become Mrs. Jacob Anderson? The wife of one of the richest men in Colorado? He walked over and stood behind her so close that Claire felt the warmth of his body on her back. So, shivering, she turned around. What about the marriage contract? What about my relatives? And the child? Is that what you wanted to ask? By marrying me, you can do just fine without in vitro conception. Claire looked down at the city lights. From childhood, she imagined how she would one day be proposed. But I never imagined it. Everything turned out so cold and calculated. As a girl, she dreamed of flowers, gold wedding rings, and music. Having become older, she began to dream of real passion, and again about flowers, rings, and music. And what about love? She asked softly, looking at his reflection in the glass. A dark shadow fell over Jake's face. Love? I can't say that I believe in it. At least not in love to the grave. But I know this kind of love happens, Claire protested. My brother and his wife love each other very much, and it has been 9 years since they got married. Putting his hands on her shoulders, Jake turned her towards him. Has this happened to you? Claire, have you ever loved? She shook her head. And me too, although once I thought I met love. But everything turned out to be an illusion. Claire couldn't help but ask, what happened? He looked past her. Melissa left me a month before the wedding. She returned to her former boyfriend the day after I offered to sign a marriage contract. Oh Jake, nothing. I believe that a marriage falls apart as soon as the feelings that the spouses took for love pass. So how can you base a family on something so fragile? And on what? On mutual respect. For general purposes. He took her hands in his. And friendship. You think that I know nothing about you, but you are mistaken. I know that you are smart, proud, generous. The Claire Eden I know. I like. Wouldn't it be better to know more about me first, and then get married? Maybe so, but I can't wait. It may take more than 1 month before you become pregnant. And I can die even tomorrow. So we need to start as soon as possible. He stroked her palms with his thumbs. I can't promise you love, Claire. But you can be sure of my honesty and that I will take care of you. Claire raised her head angrily. I don't need anyone's care. I have taken excellent care of myself since my mother died. To be continued. If you liked the video, subscribe to my channel and press the bell to nothing don't miss.